Okay, so I think we will start now. Thank you all for joining us. This is the 9th webinar that we are hosting here. And specifically, we were talking about avoiding burnout when you offer your farm or ranch stay, since it is the hospitality business and it's not the actual operations of your farm. So for those of you who have been with us before, this is a repeat, but this is the housekeeping that I like to just take care of first. So my name is Scotty Jones. I'm the Executive Director for the U.S. FarmStay Association, so you know who's talking. Zoom, which is the program we're using here, allows you that opportunity to interact with us. So there is chat where you can type and ask questions. Kate is not actually here. I have left a message in chat that if you do have problems, you need to give me a little bit of time because I have a hard time talking and typing at the same time. There is a section called Q&A that if you scroll to the bottom of your screen, it should pop up, and that's where we want to take questions for Beth at the end of the presentation. So feel free, though, to type your questions in at any time. We're going to answer those verbally. Your microphones are actually muted right now, and it's only Beth and myself who are on the phone or on the webinar. In terms of speaking, there is a short survey that's at the end of this webinar, and I would love for you to fill it out. It only has about 5 questions, but it is for the grant feedback that is has sponsored these webinars. And we will get this recording up on our website in the Farmer's Guide, hopefully tomorrow or the next day, so that you can review it. As I mentioned, I'm Scotty Jones. I'm the founder and executive director of the U.S. FarmStay Association that we lovingly call FarmStay USA. We launched the site in 2010, and we are a nonprofit, but we launched as farmstayus.com, so that is our main URL. But I am also the co-owner of Leaping Lamb Farm and FarmStay here in Alsea, Oregon. And I have been hosting a FarmStay since 2006. So I am particularly interested in burnout and the things that one needs to do so that the reason we started up hosting guests is still a reason to stay hosting guests. Because I get to interact with a lot of our FarmStay hosts, I get to see what they do well. And that is why I asked Beth Kennett today to talk to us about burnout and what she has done in the last 30 years since she is a dairy farmer who's hosted guests since 1984. I think she wins the prize in our group for having done this longer than anybody else. So Beth is actually a 9th generation farmer. She and her husband bought Liberty Hill Farm in 1979. The farm, they're actually the 5th family to be on this farm. It was founded in 1780. It's in Rochester, Vermont, so if you think of the first 13 states, that's one of them. This is a 240-acre dairy. It's part of Cabot Creamery Cooperative, and they milk 270 Robuth Holsteins daily. In 1984, they decided to open their farmhouse as a B&B for extra income, but also because they thought, this is back before we all used that word transparency, that it was good to be transparent and show people what goes on in the farming industry. Now, Beth also cooks breakfast and dinner for her guests, and everybody sits down at a family-style dinner. That is not the norm for most of our farm stays, but because she does that, I figured she was even more intimately involved in things that could burn you out. In 2013, she was presented with the prestigious Vermont Chamber of Commerce Innkeeper of the Year Award. So I would like to say welcome, Beth. Please grab this screen from me, and we would love to hear what you have to say to help the rest of us.
Well, Scotty, thank you so much. It's really a delight to have been working with you over the last number of years. Um, and thank you for for the introduction. That was my whole introduction. Scotty, you just already said it all.
Sorry.
So no, it's great. That's fine. We have had the pleasure and delight of being here on this farm and milking cows for the last 40 years. Both Bob and I grew up on dairy farms, so we knew what a dairy farm was, but both sets of parents were shocked and aghast when Bob and I opened our home to take in guests, because they knew that both of us were very shy, quiet people. But we had, as you can see, this is Bob's normal, up on top of a mountain, haying in a field with 0 people. If you look at that mountain scene, you see not a single person, and that is really, that's where Bob lives. And if you then think about the fact that we have 20 people at our dinner table for supper tonight, that's kind of a crazy juxtaposition between a dairy farmer's normal as being with his cows and being out in the fields and not talking to anybody, to then coming into a house that's full of guests who are constantly asking questions and wanting to know about the farm. And so yes, as Scotty said, we started taking in guests in February of 1984 with a family from New Jersey with their 5 kids, and they are still coming. And I think for me, a piece of that coping with burnout, we have been incredibly blessed with the families who come year after year, season after season. I have numerous grand guests, not just grandchildren, but grand guests. In fact, I had 2 reservations this week from folks who had stayed here as kids with their parents, and they now want to come back and give that experience of being on the farm to their children. And I've had a few families now where I've had 4 generations of the family has come and stayed here on the farm. And that to me is just an amazing, amazing blessing. And that has really helped me keep going, is the family that we have created that extends beyond, far beyond our dinner table, across the country and literally around the world. It's not at all unusual for us to have guests from different continents around the world all here together, and even have them come back from the other side of the world to come and visit the farm, because we have become a part of their family tradition, and just a part of what they expect when they come to the U.S., what they expect when they come to Vermont, and they love, love, love being here. So advice to all of you on how to do that for 35 plus years. February 84 to now is 35 and a half years now of sharing our dinner table with folks. And yeah, you always have a day when it's rugged. I had shared with Scotty earlier that this summer we think I might be struggling with Lyme disease. All we know is I have a little hitch in my get-along, and have been going back and forth to various doctors all summer. And then any of you who know anything about dairy farming know that the dairy economy, as many parts of our agricultural economy, is kind of struggling right now. And so when you add the stresses of family and finances, and then your own medical issues, whether it's yours or your loved ones, those pieces can all really drain you. And at the same time, you can't lay that on your guests, because my biggest competition, as is kind of sort of Disney World, the whole, whether you are thinking in terms of, Carnival Cruise Lines or Disney or whatever, folks have the ability to travel, to go anywhere, to do anything they want. And our guests will often tell me that the ones this morning said, well, last year we went to a beach in South Carolina. This year we wanted to do something different, so we came to a farm in Vermont. People often will tell me that they told their children, okay, which do you want to do this year? Do you want to go to Disney, or do you want to go to a farm, or do you want to go to Europe? Those are my guests. Those are their choices. And how I deal with that is just to accept it, acknowledge it, understand they're here on vacation, they're here to be with their family, they don't want to know my woes and difficulties, and yet at the same time, I have to be real and genuine and authentic and find the line between being a part of their family and, as the tractor drives by the window, being able to take care of them because they're here needing rest and relief from their own lives. So it's a hard line that each of you have to acknowledge and have to deal with. And that's where, the burnout factor can really come in, because you are here to take care of them in their burnout, and yet you can't reveal that you're struggling with that as well. So it's a little awkward. So the number one thing is communication, and communication within your family. You have to have a really, really, really strong core of communication with your own family and those who are working with you, and just appreciating them, acknowledging them, and that so they can be there to support you in your hospitality towards your guests. I think the other thing that we all of us here on this call share in common is, the commitment to farming gives us an advantage over the kind of the stereotypical bed and breakfast. Here in Vermont, kind of the B&B industry kind of sort of says that it's about a 7-year turnover rate, that within 7 years, you're either an alcoholic, divorced, or completely burned out and you're selling the bed and breakfast. And you all know that with a farm, you can't really do that. And so we've been operating this dairy farm for 40 years. However, we love to acknowledge to our guests that we're only the 5th family to have lived here since 1780. Farms are here to stay, and our commitment to be the stewards of this land. And you can see the picture of our barn. It was started in 1787 and it was finished in 1889. You see the river and the mountains. It's, we're here. We're here for the long haul, and we've got the next generation of our family here on the farm with us. So those deep roots and that deep sense of commitment to the farm helps underscore our guest business with a kind of a different ethic. Then it's not about the pillows, it's not about the pancakes, it's about sharing the farm and our life here on the farm with our guests. Just kind of going through a few of these things quickly, and in all seasons, whether it's summer or fall, winter, it's all about sharing what we have with our family. And it's just an old farmhouse. There's nothing too fancy. There's nothing really special. It's just what we do at the table is really where it's at. Sharing our lives, sharing the conversation at the table. That's, for us, is what makes this place really special. And that's where we really, really, really connect with our guests and have the opportunity to talk to them and to allow them to ask us questions about farming and farm life and agriculture. I think that allows us to share with our guests really our purpose, and the purpose of, you know, providing food, feeding people, and nourishing them, not just with their bodies, but also with their souls. And I think that really being able to nourish our guests and enjoy, literally enjoy being with them and sharing our life with them, that is what helps me not get burned out after 35 and a half years. I think that really understanding that commitment of what is your purpose, you know, who are you, and being real and really sharing that is, for me, what it's all about. So I'm happy to answer questions. That's, you know, I'm an open book. I'm kind of an open book with all the guests who are here, and more than happy to answer any questions from any of you.
Okay, so I am going to take this screen back from Beth just for a minute, because I want to just reiterate a few of the things that she had said. And this is where I always have the hard time of getting to the next page. Because I think I've also dealt with, you know, how do I not get burned out and how do I enjoy what I'm doing? So I'm going to reiterate a few of the things that Beth said, and I just put mine in writing. Because I think what she talked about, are these guests of yours friends or are they strangers? And if they can become friends of yours, then it's not as if every single time you are having to be on stage. And that repeat guest is something that, it's less expensive to have, but it also creates relationships, and you do get to see families grow and grow up, and you get to then invite their children back with their children. And I have found that the repeat guest part of our business takes off some of the stress of what I call being on stage when you're with a new guest for the first time. You need to be doing this because you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy talking to people you've never met before, then who does on the farm? And if there is nobody on the farm that can be open like that and actually gets a kick out of it, then it may not be a good thing to do to start with.
Yeah, and don't do it for the money.
Yeah, don't do it for the money. When I put the right guests here, you know, you need to set those expectations so that people aren't showing up in high heels and expecting 5-star if you only offer 2-star. And so the right guest also means where you market yourself. And
Right.
Are you just marketing by location, or are you potentially marketing by experience? And so that's what we do at the FarmStay Association. I mean, we are sending you guests who already came to us because they wanted to go to a working farm or ranch and really kind of experience that lifestyle. So you want to think a little bit about where you're marketing yourself, because the right guests make it all worth it, and the wrong guests make you think that you probably shouldn't be in the business, or you should close down.
Or you just go crazy.
Or you just go crazy, yeah. You do want to protect your personal space, though, and that's not just personal space, but personal time. So if you have the opportunity to be in a separate building or a separate part of a building, and that you're clear with your guests that yes, you are around, but it's not necessarily 24/7. I don't know. I find that I'm pretty open about when I'm available to people, but you do need to protect yourself a little bit, and at least just define for guests, because they like to know what the rules are, you know, how things work on the property. And being part of a hosting community, it's a great place to be able to share stories, good stories and bad stories. So with our private forum, that is a place where we have had a number of farms go, okay, this just happened. How would you have handled it? Because not every guest visit is going to be the most successful. There are things that come up, and there are different ways to handle things. And so being part of a community where you can actually ask for some advice helps a lot with not deciding just to close your doors. Take a break. I always tell people.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I attend the Vermont Tourism Summit every year. I go to the Vermont Inns and Bed and Breakfast Association meetings, and I'm also part of the New England Inn and Resort Association. And I really feel strongly that going to those tourism conferences has really enabled me to learn and grow and develop a lot. That has really meant a great deal. And whether or not I'm always wish to have a network of other, bed and breakfast people, and that has only worked a few times over the years to really be able to get a relationship going with them. But it's really important for me to be a part of that tourism community.
Right. And so, so that's a break because you get, and that's part of the hosting community. Taking the break though, we're offering vacations to people. It's hard to get off of a farm and take a vacation, but it's important to see if you can do that, even if it's for a day or two, to just get away here and there. But I also tell people, you don't have to be open 360 days a year. If that break is just closing your farm stay or just saying that you're booked or not available, say that for the winter, then that's fine. Because being open 360 days a year is really hard if you're the host, if you're the only host. Beth, don't you? I know you're open 360 days a year, right?
Well, actually, we take Christmas off. So Christmas Eve and Christmas Day is actually the only times that we absolutely do not take in guests, but there's a seasonality to the guest business. We're busiest May through October, and then the rest of the year it's pretty much weekends and school vacations. So there are down times November through April, thank the good Lord, because I really look forward to every once in a while just having pizza and ice cream.
Exactly.
And not having to do the big, huge Sunday dinner every single night of the week. So.
Right. Yeah. So you're right. It does work out seasonally as well.
Yeah. And if I were, so I think there's a seasonality and all that to most farm stays, I would presume. I mean, depending on where you live and what kind of farm you have, there's going to be some type of seasonality, and you need to honor that and work with that. And don't, like I keep thinking that I need to, get more guests in the winter because we're in the middle of ski country. And yet at the same time, Bob and I, the last couple of winters, haven't had as many guests. And it's been kind of nice to have a little time to just be us.
Right.
So treasure that as well.
Right. So then I put on here, don't do all the work. We've been with the association for 9, almost 10 years at this point, and I have watched farms fall out when they are the people who are doing every single job. If you are making money, you should be able to pay people to help you, for instance, clean, make beds. That seems to be what burns out people the most. But you just can't do all of the jobs all of the time. So I think you should think about how you're going to spread some of that work out, and that it's not all your responsibility, or you probably will be the 5 to 7 year host. Beth did mention checking in and communicating with your family. I mean, they're in this too, even if they're the ones that are on the tractor and not welcoming the guests, but do make sure that you're checking in with them, especially if it impacts because they're living on the farm. And then I put on here, think about an exit plan. I mean, think about if you're not going to do this anymore. And then that takes me to this business plan. And, it does help. It doesn't have to be that formal, but I would try out different scenarios. Okay, I'm getting into this now. How long do I want to do this for? let me talk to other people, find out how long have they been in it, what are the stressors for them. And a business plan can just be, something that you've scratched out. What are you doing? When are you doing it? How much are you charging? How are you going to market? And how are you going to end it? I mean, I think that's just a reality check. It's not like you're going to sell the farm, but maybe you're not going to always be hosting guests. And I think in that business plan, that kind of gives you, why did you get into this to start with? Are you doing it for financial reasons? Which I would say, we did a survey, 92% of us are doing it as a diversification strategy. Are you doing it to educate your guests? Well, a lot of us do fall into that. And I think I enjoy that. Beth, I know you enjoy that as well.
Absolutely.
It's a really important piece of a farm stay because we send our guests back home better educated about what is involved with farming and maybe why the prices are the way they are when they see how hard the work is. And then for Beth, like meeting people from all over. I mean, she certainly meets them from all around the world. I meet them from more around the States. But that is really interesting and fun to have people like that on your farm or at your table. But what you do need to do is just remind yourself, why are you doing this? And, hopefully this is why you're doing it. You're doing it to show people, you're doing it to feed people, you're doing it to give them experiences and take them on adventures and you're doing it you're doing it for kids, for the children if you do families. In terms of just inspiring them. We do need a new generation of farmers. And so I think that's what we've got right now. And let me look and see if there are any questions. Oh, so there are no questions at this point, but I'm going to keep this open for a minute. And if anybody has any to type in, I am going to go to chat to make sure that nobody's typed any questions in there. No, I don't see any questions there. But I was gonna ask Beth, in terms of, has your family burned out on this at all? Or what do you do to protect your family from getting caught up in this and not wanting to do it anymore?
So with our family, because we have done it for 35 and a half years, let me explain some of the evolution of the family through that. When our boys were, we moved here, Tom was 2 and David was 6 months old. And then, 5 years later, we started taking in guests. So, they were 5 and a half and 7. So they literally grew up with having guests here. When you've got 5, 6, 7-year-olds, then when you start, really a significant portion of their growing up. With our older son, Tom, he was a much more reserved, private person, and he had difficulties at times sharing his Lego castle that he had spent hours and days building, and he didn't want to share it. So I told him, you have to keep it in your room. If you can't share it, don't bring it down. When he was a teenager, he, wanted to have all his buddies come in and play music during fall foliage. That doesn't work during fall foliage. So yeah, they could come in the winter during basketball season, and I always had all the team dinners here, and I was always the mom that, helped with chaperoning in school and all that. Make sure that, you carve out that time for your family, for your kids, because that was hard for Tom. He just felt like, it was all that he was the stranger living in the house, and it was all about the guests all the time. And he really struggled at different points in his life with that. And actually, now that he's married and has 4 children of his own, and his oldest are now 16, he actually left our farm about 5 years ago now. And a piece of it for him was his wife wanted privacy, and she didn't want to have to feel like their family was on display and part of the whole, show all the time, and that was very difficult for her. And so, just being honest with you all, it was a factor, not the determining factor, but a factor in our older son and his wife and family leaving the farm, because they just felt like they didn't want to have to do that all the time. Our younger son, thank you God, is here farming with us with his wife and 3 children, and ranging in age from 7 to Leo will be 1 next week. And my younger daughter-in-law loves the guest business, absolutely loves it, is fascinated with meeting guests from all over the country and all around the world, thrives on it. And Ella, their oldest daughter, who's 7, is the most fantastic tour guide, and she loves making new friends. And that has been, David and his wife have just this very open, warm, generous hospitality nature. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because, if your kids aren't into it, it really makes a huge difference. And, I had one son that was not, he wanted privacy. And the younger son is, my guests come in all the time going, oh my land, David was so wonderful. He answered all our questions, and we only asked 157 questions, and he answered them all. So,
Okay.
So there you have it. So family and their unique personalities and unique needs and characteristics, you have to honor and respect.
Right.
But it can make or break the business. So I'm just very thankful that, our younger son and his wife and his children are great with the guests.
Right. Cool. So let's see. So Don Speranza he's asked 2 questions. These are going to be for you, Beth. So the first one is, how do you handle noisy kids when perhaps a guest has come for peace and quiet? And then his second question is going to be, how do you accommodate a variety of dietary issues?
Okay. So noisy kids when a guest has come for peace and quiet. We actually had that last week. We had a couple here. It was a little bit hilarious because we had a couple of families here, and then we had this other couple here. And with a couple of families that were here, we had 6 kids ranging in age from 10 to 20. I thought it was awesome that there were all these teenagers here, because it's like, this is so cool. It's not the kindergarten set. It's teenagers, and they love the farm. Well, this other couple kind of sort of was having a little, like, little growly. Lo and behold, they have 2 teenagers at home, 12 and 14, and they had left them at home, and they had come away for their own little romantic weekend, got to my house, and here's 6 teenagers. So I just had to laugh, because I'm like, why would you come here, leave your teenagers at home when this is obviously a happening place? And, so they left a night early, and it was totally fine with me. We weren't their place at that point in time. If they came in November, they might be the only ones in the house, and they could have their peace and quiet. But over 35 years, I've learned to say, you know what? Doesn't always work for everybody. We're not going to be the place for everybody, or necessarily at every moment in time. And it's okay. And you just let it go. So the noisy kids, sometimes last night I had to ask some kids to tone it down, because there were other people's kids that were going to bed early. So I'm the grandma, I get to set the rules. It's my house. So I often have told kids that they need to tone it down to respect other people. I don't have any problems with that. It's my house, my rules. So, and then I also understand every once in a while when a guest has come here for peace and privacy, and there's 10 kids under the age of 12, then it's not the right place for them. Don, you also asked about dietary issues, and I have that all the time. This week I had 15 out of 18 people all had dietary issues. So it was dairy-free, gluten-free, vegetarian. This coming weekend, I have a severe peanut allergy and tree nut allergy. I've had people that were allergic to cucumbers, carrots, radishes, mint, chocolate, coffee, you name it. Over 35 years, I've had people allergic to just about everything I can think of. And you just accommodate. It's part of, because I serve dinner in the evening as well as breakfast in the morning. So 2 mornings ago, I made 3 different kinds of pancakes. I had regular pancakes with blueberries, I had regular pancakes without blueberries, and I had gluten-free pancakes. So, yeah, accommodating dietary restrictions is absolutely required in this day and age. I don't think I have a single week go by that I don't have some dietary restriction that I have to accommodate.
I have a question for that. Do you charge extra?
No, of course not. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Okay.
Wouldn't even consider it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then I have a question that goes back to the noisy kids. Have you ever, if you were being grandma and you're telling the kids to settle down, have you ever had problems with their parents not wanting you to
be grandma?
Yes.
Once in a great while, I've had some parents who took them by surprise, but I just say, hey, my house are my rules.
Okay.
And they will usually, it's usually because at home they have a nanny or an au pair or someone else taking care of their kids, and so they're not used to disciplining their own children. Right. That's quite often what I find is the issue. I've had children at the table who didn't know how to eat properly, and it's because they don't eat with their parents. They don't eat at a family table. They are fed by a child care provider at a different time, and their parents eat it at a different time, and the parents aren't clued into the fact that the child needs help cutting up their food.
Right. Okay.
Or how to serve them at a family-style table. So I've seen it all.
Okay. So are there any other questions that anybody has of Beth or me? I don't see any other ones. So I think what we'll do is, Beth, I want to thank you for taking the time today and being here with us. And thank you all for also coming and being part of this webinar series. There are some future webinars. Hopefully Don, who is on this.
On the next one, Food on the Farm. Hey, all right, Don. Yeah.
Food on the Farm. He not only provides meals, but he teaches classes. So he teaches cooking.
Oh, that's terrific.
And hopefully we'll get that happening. And then these are future dates. I have some farmers who have committed. So I have a really well-known cheese maker who also teaches classes on October 3rd. I'm going to have somebody else, I think, who's going to be talking about sheep and fiber business and how you work that in with guests. Weddings. We've got a nonprofit sanctuary. How does he do that? Tours, large and small, and events. So we have more things coming up. I just need to get people committed for those. So I hope that you all will join us. And I just want to thank everybody very much for taking part of your Thursday and spending it with us. So thank you. And I am going to probably end this.
And if anybody has any questions of me, please, you've got my contact information there from Scotty. So please feel free to, send me an email or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys very much, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Okay.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.